Journeys is recorded at Doghouse Studios. Like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube to keep the conversation going. Remember, if you like the content, share the content. Welcome back to Journeys. Today is Monday, August 30th. I'm Chad Jones, and this is Journeys. So, this week, I wanted to talk about relationships. Just overall, I think I have the whole week to kind of dive into different aspects of relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, good relationships, bad relationships, so on and so forth. And I'm kind of at the point where, at least in one of my relationships that's kind of struck a chord with me, I kind of want to talk about it because I don't really know where to go from here, and I don't know if I'm being kind of a jerk, or if I'm being a nice guy, or if I'm being a jerk because I'm trying to be nice. But So I have a friend of mine who has been reaching out for the last little while on Instagram, and they'll like my videos, they'll comment, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But lately, it's been a lot of just complaining and a lot of whining, and the conversation has just become very one-sided because for every single message I send out, or every couple messages I send out, I get like 2 pages where I have to scroll through it all. And I don't really think that that's an even relationship by any means. I feel like it's somebody that's way more invested in the conversation than me, but I also know, like, hey, this person is somebody who works in the healthcare field. It's somebody that, I get that has a very difficult life, and I don't want to be that person that kind of just shuns people away, but at the same time, it's like, I don't really have anything to say to you. Do I have to keep this conversation going? And I'm sure I've been on the other end of it, where I've been bothering people and I've been talking to people, and they're like, oh man, I wish Chad would just stop talking to me. I have nothing more to say. All he does is complain. Which I'm trying to find some kind of balance between myself and this person that ultimately will give me what I'm looking for in that relationship, which is more of a back and forth. And okay, again, it's a friend of mine, and the friend, I'm not super close with in a traditional sense. Like, it's kind of one of those things where when we get together and we talk for a couple hours, and there's a really good back and forth, and she's a very important person in my life, just due to past history and everything we've kind of been through, and I have the friend of a friend saying like, oh, I'm gonna complain about her, and then you can't tell her. And I'm like, well, I mean, you're not really my friend. I'm being nice, and I guess there's like a friend relationship here, but I'm not, like, you're not the main act. you're the opening band, and I can enjoy it, and maybe, if there was more of a spark there, we could be closer friends. But at the end of the day, it's just not happening. And I don't know how to, like, just break this off to be like, hey, so can you just chill on the messaging? I don't know. But this is kind of what's been on my mind today with relationships, is more or less like these conversations that we have, and these conversations where there's only one party like super invested, or even if there's 2 parties invested and you like that person and you care about that person, but the conversation just doesn't really meet on both ends. Like, that's kind of what I want to think about and focus on today, is just at least for this week, is just relationships. So to start off relationships, I want to kind of talk about one-sided relationships. And what is a one-sided relationship? Well, like I said, it's where one person is putting in way more effort than the other person, or people, depending on if it's a group thing. And without oversharing too much, I've been in some one-sided relationships where somebody has been putting in way more effort with me, and I'm not interested in putting in that effort with them, and vice versa. And I don't know, it feels bad when that relationship kind of gets to that point. And in getting to the point of one-sidedness, it becomes really, again, it's just this like awkward thing where you're like, hey, am I talking too much? Are you invested in this conversation? And again, I've had people that aren't texters. I've had people that aren't people that call on the phone. I've had people who kind of do both and just kind of, they're like, oh man, I really like your company. I really like hanging out with you in person, but I just would rather you text me, like, let's arrange coffee and then let's do that. And I'm glad that all those people exist, and I'm glad that there's those that honesty that happens. But at the same time, we live in a world that's connected so much, and it's highly interwoven with social media and technology, that there's really no excuse to not be communicating and not communicating back and forth. And that's the other thing is, like, with one-sided relationships, how do you end up in a conversation where it's like you haven't responded for 2 days? Like, have you not looked at your phone for 2 days, or do you just not care to respond for 2 days? And I get there's like different sides. Like, I know another friend of mine, she's dating, or I guess like off and on dating, and she's like, I don't get this. I will respond to you, I will talk to you, and I'll try to keep a conversation going, but you'll talk to me once a day? Like, that is bizarre. Like, do you have a limit? Do you still have a text plan where your texts are so valuable that, it's like 75 cents a text or something? I don't know. And I tell her, like, well, maybe people aren't really texters. Have you tried calling? And she's like, oh, well, I have, and they're just awkward. There's no real connection. And I don't know if it's just people in general that have a difficult time connecting. I don't know if it's the post-pandemic. I don't know if it's how we're still living our lives, that there's like this lack of connection and things are becoming more one-sided. But for me personally, like, if I see a text message and it's something that I don't need to take a second to think about, usually I respond. I'm not always the best with it either. I usually look at how long it took the other person to respond. So if it's a person that I know is always on their phone, every time I hang out with them, they're staring at their phone, kind of like me, then I always kind of be like, so I texted you, like, texted you a couple days ago. Did you not see that, or did you ignore me? And sometimes they'll be like, oh, I just straight up ignored you. And I'm like, okay, fine, thanks for the honesty. I appreciate it. And then other times they'll be like, oh, I completely missed it. And I'm guilty of it too, where my phone will open a text, and because it opens the text, I won't actually have read it, and I won't have seen it. And then like a couple days later, I'll be like checking my messages just to see what I missed, and I'll be like, oh my goodness, my best friend texted me and I completely missed it. Now I just feel like a jerk. And I don't know, again, I'm not 100% sure this is how all one-sided conversations go, but they sometimes seem more intentional than that. And looping back to my one-sided conversation, like, I want to be a nice person and say, hey, like, this conversation's becoming way more one-sided, and I think we just need to take a step back and need to, have more of that balance, because you're reaching out to me way more than I'm reaching out to you. But on the other hand, I just kind of want to ignore it and hope it goes away. And that makes me a bad person, and I get it. But I don't know. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to think about it for a little bit, and I'll be back. I think at the end of the day, relationships come down to respect, and having respect not only for yourself but the other person, and vice versa. Not only having respect for them but having respect for yourself, and realizing that, hey, this is not a cool situation for me. I don't appreciate how this conversation is going. And again, I think if more people stepped up and said, all right, I'm not into this, I'm not a fan of yours, I'm not a fan of this, like, let's just move on with our lives. Yeah, it sucks and it hurts and you rip the band-aid off, but at least everybody knows they're on the same page. And I've had relationships. I remember when I was trying to court a girl I had a crush on for forever, and every time I tried to reach out to her, it would take a couple hours, maybe the next day, maybe 2 days, and I was just like, is this person invested? I feel like this person isn't invested. I feel like I asked them out a while ago, and they said, yeah, sure, let's hang out, let's meet up. And then that just never happened, and I just felt like I was bothering them, like, hey, so you said you wanted to go out, and it's now been 3 weeks. Do you have any free time? And I just felt like I just didn't have respect for myself. Like, I should have just put my foot down and been like, hey, this person doesn't want anything to do with me. I think I was blinded by the fact that, like, I had such a big crush, and I had such a crush for such a long time that any yes made sense to me. And now, looking back, I was like, oh, man, you didn't have any respect for yourself. You kind of just let this person control the conversation, this person control how you felt. And when you responded, like, you were euphoric, and it was one of those balancing acts of like, oh my god, I got a message, I have to respond. No, they didn't respond, she didn't respond, I gotta wait a little bit longer. Okay, I'll wait for an equal amount of time. When did they text me? Was that an hour ago? Okay, cool. An hour. Let's see. They took 4 hours to respond. Maybe I should wait 4 hours. Maybe I should wait longer. Oh my god. And it just felt like a game. There wasn't an actual relationship or conversation happening. And it really sucked. So, I mean, there are other times where relationships are really easy, and you just kind of hit it off with that person, and then it's kind of like Step Brothers, where you're like, did we just become best friends? And other times it's a lot harder. And I would say, like, I'm a fairly open person in general, and people open up to me pretty easy, mainly because I ask questions that allow people to open up. But some people just don't have it is oil and water. And it'll be like, hey, so how do you feel about this thing? Oh, that's too personal. Well, that's fine, I'll back off. How, tell me a little bit about your family. Oh, it's my family. I don't really want to get you involved in that. Like, I get it. I completely get it. And I think that the further and closer you get to people, at least with my experience now with journeys, is that the closer you get to people, the more you realize you don't really know them until you kind of let them have that spotlight, let them have that undivided monologue amount of attention, and let them learn. Like yesterday, I think my relationship with Ryan changed a little bit, Ryan Steele, because he came in, he talked about his alcoholism and his addiction and the struggles. And I struggle with alcohol, I struggle with weed, and just hearing him talk and having him have that spotlight for a little bit and letting him sort through some of his feelings. Like, I hope he got some kind of, I hope he can listen back to it and say, wow, like, I was really going through something, and in a couple months, hopefully it's not as difficult. Hopefully his sobriety is still staying true, and we'll see. That's the best thing I can say, is that we'll see for Ryan. And again, we wish him the best of luck, but I wouldn't have known about that if I hadn't given him that spotlight. And again, some of these other people that I've had on, it's not that I didn't know about certain things, it's that I didn't know the depth in which the things existed. And it's crazy. It's crazy. And I'm so happy that I have such great guests on, and people that are willing to open up, and people that are willing to talk to me. And every single person is like, hey, was that okay? Like, is that an episode of Journeys, or did I just mess it up? And I'm like, hey, like, every episode for a guest is different, and even every episode for me and recording me is different. But they all have a similar tone. I think it's the music that kind of just plays along in the background and sets the mood for you. But I'm so interested in a lot of what people have to say, but then at the same time, like, certain times when it just becomes overwhelming and too much, like, I don't know how to back away from that situation. Again, maybe it's just me not being able to put my foot down and saying, like, hey, I'm done with this. I need a little bit of time. I need a break from you. Sorry, I just yawned. It's Monday. That's another relationship. Mondays. I feel like Mondays aren't even the hardest day of the week. It's like the weekly grind when you get to the middle of the week. And for me, the middle of the week is Tuesday, Wednesday. Which, I mean, Wednesday's usually the middle of the week. But on a 5-day schedule, you got like Wednesday, Thursday. And I'm telling you, these 3-day weekends go by so quickly. Especially because I nap for like 2 hours a day on the weekend, and that's probably not, that's a little time consuming, but yeah, I had some decent naps this weekend, and I had some time with, like I said, I had a guest on yesterday, which ultimately is all that matters to me. I'm hoping that I can get some people in the studio to fill up my Thursday, Sunday, but, actually it's weird. Thursday this week is my birthday, and I'm going to keep talking about it because I keep forgetting, and I'm usually a big birthday person, but this year I'm not. It's my 29th. It's not really the big 30-year-old birthday that everyone celebrates, dirty 30s. It's not really of any more significance other than the fact that Logan could be coming on my birthday, and then it would just be our birthday, and that would be a really cool dynamic. And for those who don't know, Logan is my second son. He is still in utero, and I'm hoping that I can get a little pre-birth interview with my wife for Thursday for my birthday. So we'll see. We'll see if she wants to come on. I know she has a really interesting story to tell. I know that she's got a lot to say, but she's also kind of like some other people that have been on where they're just a little uncomfortable with it and they don't know what to talk about. And that's kind of where I step in and where I have to step in. And to be a producer is to guide people to find their journey, find themselves within this. And that's another part of relationship that's a dynamic, which is you have these people that come from all walks of life, and some of them are super social, some of them are very closed off, some of them are very just quiet people, others are super outgoing, but they all have one thing in common, which is they all have their own unique story, and they all have their own unique voice that they want to tell their story in. And that's kind of what Journeys for me is finding that voice still, because I'm still finding my own voice. And it's hard to get somebody to really sit down and record and find themselves in a 10-minute time span and then kind of poke at them for another 10 minutes and hope that I get the best results. Like, more or less, like every time I have a guest on, it is to kind of document where they are at that time. And I'm hoping that I can bring more people back on and we can reconnect and say, hey, this is what you talked about last time. Is there anything more you want to expand on, or how has progress been happening? and we can kind of check in on their journey, because that's the most important part to me. Yeah, there's another episode down for Monday, August 30th. Today, again, it's a Monday, geez. I don't want to go to work, but hey, you gotta pay bills somehow, right? So for Monday, August 30th, I'm Chad Jones. This has been Journeys, and I will talk to you on another time.